What is up, everybody? It is Rosie here, and what I'm gonna do is a real easy recap of everything that happened this week in the NFL. Going to be touching on some of the major stories, some of the big time players that happened, all that kind of good stuff. Football's back, and one thing you got to do when football's back is you got to break it down. It doesn't just end on Sunday. It starts again on Monday. That's when you got to dig your teeth in, see what really happened, watch some tape, and become a better football fan, become a more informed football fan, become a better football better, um, all that kind of good stuff. So that's gonna be the main focus of this pod right here. Gonna start, like I said, just by breaking down some of the biggest news, some of the games that went on. Then I'm gonna go over my biggest losers of the week. That should be great. I'll also highlight some breakout players. These are some players that really did the damn thing. We're gonna highlight some of those, as well as I'm gonna do a running top five rookies of the year. It's probably going to be more offensive centered. I do have some interest in the offensive rookie of the year race on account of I have some money on a guy. I'm not going to say who that guy is quite yet. I'm sure as the top five rookie list evolves, you guys absolutely will figure that out. And then finally, I'm going to wrap up with just going over how my gambling picks went over the weekend. I know everybody loves to hear about people losing their bets because that's hilarious. It wasn't the case for me this weekend, but I guarantee you, if you stick around, the losing ways will happen again, I'm sure. So, just going to kind of get into it. We had a very, very fun weekend of the NFL, but not for me. So, just a little bit of background on me. I'm a Green Bay Packers fan, been a Packers fan my whole life. Somewhere, somehow, I will find that picture of me in a Brett Favre jersey as like a 5, 6 year old. It does exist. Obviously, I rode with Aaron Rodgers for 15 years during my middle school adulthood. And then after that, I've transitioned into this Jordan Love era, as all us Packers fans are. So it was a bit of a disappointing weekend for us specifically. Not only did we lose to the Eagles, but Jordan Love appears to have sustained a MCL injury. 3 to 4 weeks is the timetable. But Adam Schefter just tweeted something very interesting. Said if Jordan Love is able to go, Malik Willis will start. So that tells me there actually is some optimism on the knee injury. The prognosis clearly wasn't as bad as it looked. I mean, it looked anybody who watched the game. I mean, Jalen Carter rolling over his knee. I know it's the final play and we're trying to get a guy down. And, I do like to joke that these dirty birds are dirty. But I didn't actually think that was a dirty play. I mean, shit. Jordan was probably making a play he shouldn't have made anyway, pitching the ball back. I mean, shit. It was a disaster. Speaking of disaster, I've tweeted about it 15 times, but that playing field that they were on was a crazy joke. Um, I know the NFL, the biggest thing is money and dollars and how much juice can we squeeze out of this lime. Eh, Send in multimillionaires to a dictatorship country in Brazil. I know it's not a third world country. I know it's nice to a varying degree, but it was a bad optic. It was a terrible way to start the season. Nobody liked it. L's all around. L's all around. A guy who didn't take an L though is Mr. Dak Prescott. Wow, kudos for him. He waited it out. He played his cards right. He was dropping little bombs in the media here and there, and that man got paid to the tune of $240 million, a whopping 230 million guaranteed, the largest contract in NFL history. The dude is getting paid to play at a very high rate. Has been very successful as a regular season QB. The issues have been in the playoffs. When you look at his regular season stats, he's 74-41 overall. He's 203 to 74 touchdown interception. The guy lights it up in the regular season. The issues are when they make it to that postseason run, 2-5 as an overall record, only been to the playoffs 7 times, 14-7 touchdown interception ratio of 50% completion rate in terms of touchdown to interception. That's tough, man. That's the biggest question marks for him specifically. Can he get over that hump? Can he get over that bump? We'll see. The Cowboys do have a great team this year. They took care of the Browns in week 1. Deshaun Watson looked terrible. We'll get to that. But, at the end of the day, I think a lot of Cowboys fans will attest to this. It's not the guy under center. We've seen Tony Romo play at a high level, not win anything. We've seen Dak Prescott now play at a high level and not really win anything. There's got to be some exterior factors there that are working against the Cowboys, whatever those may be. Is kind of up to interpretation. I'm not here to belittle them as a franchise. I think you had to do it. That was the market. People's like, oh, Dak Prescott's not worth it. Dak Prescott's this, Dak Prescott's that. But I mean, in reality, you look at his stats, you look at the other guys he's compared to in the league. I mean, he's a top 10, I don't want to say top 5, but he's a top 10 guy. And when you have a top 10 guy under center, you have to keep him around because if you go into the draft, you could be ending ass up. You're taking a risk on a rookie QB. I mean, at the end of the day, he's a 4th rounder that's played way, way, way above his head. Kudos to Dak Prescott. I hope the Cowboys figure it out this season. In that game, a little interesting, we had the greatest of all time calling it. That was kind of fun. Tom Brady made his broadcasting debut in that Cowboys game opposite of Kurt Benkert, I believe. Had a very awkward missed knuckle touch with Perea or whatever that dude's name is, the ref guy, the ref in the sky. That was quite funny. But other than that, I thought he actually did a really good job. Didn't talk too much. He didn't have the Tony Romo syndrome. The Jim. Well, Jim. Well, Jim, let me tell you something about Jim. Didn't do he didn't do the Tony Romo thing, which was phenomenal. I do think it's time to start having that dialogue, though, about Deshaun Watson. The guy came back from the knee injury and the massage thing. The massage. We're gonna. He came back from the knee injury and the massage, and he really has not played good football. I don't have all of his stats in front of me, and I honestly don't want to look at his stats. I'm sure I would be absolutely disgusted if I looked at his stats. Hasn't played great. The whispers of Jameis Winston have officially started in Cleveland. Those will get louder. The dog pound it'll start as a chatter to a ho 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 to a oh ro 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 ro. I mean, you're gonna get those dogs barking very, very soon. Panic time in Cleveland, absolutely. Tyreek Hill had a very interesting start to his Sunday. Started out getting detained by Miami police for unknown reasons. I saw reckless driving floated around. I saw speeding floating around. I mean, if we learned anything from the Scotty Scheffler situation, until we see some body cam and until we see some car footage, whatever, trunk cam, dash cam, whatever, until we see some cam footage, no comments on it. But what you can say is Tyreek Hill didn't let it affect him too much. Guy went for 7 receptions, 130 yards, a TD, and a Dolphins win. Off of that, it wasn't an arrest, it was a detainment. Clearly didn't affect him too much. Shout out Miami PD for looking like kind of a a-hole in that situation. I know they've already had to suspend one of their police officers for the incident. Not a good look. It's funny. it's funny because it's a guy like Tyreek who does get some weird press for some of his past stuff, and for him to like kind of come out and still ball, it's just that was kind of a classic Tyreek moment. Caleb Williams did a little something. Got a rookie Bears win as a starter for the first time in I want to say 17 years, 16 years. Pretty massive win for Caleb Williams. He did struggle, but notice Bears fans, I started with the fact that you guys won the game. Okay, I started with the fact that you won. Now I'm going to go into him struggling. 14 for 29, 93 yards, a 55.7 QBR. I mean, Levis, Watson, Nix, Daniel Jones, Bryce Young, Caleb Williams. Those were the stinkers of the week in terms of QBR, percentages, interceptions thrown, general QB tomfoolery. But out of all those guys, out of every single one of them, Caleb Williams was the only one to get a W. A lot of that had to do with the fact that their defense looks very, very impressive. Special teams got a return touchdown, couple picks. They were all over Levis's grill. I mean, talk about a guy who has had a meteoric fall. Will Levis was kind of a guy that people were high on. Then all of a sudden he has a risque video drop. He's had some interesting media appearances, and he looks absolutely terrible in week one. Could not have looked more lost. I know every single one of you saw the meme of him on his knees praying to the Lord of football as he threw his second interception, basically sealing the game for the Chicago Bears. Disgusting performance by Will Levis. Caleb Williams, you will get better. Bears defense, pretty good. Shout out to the Bears defense. Matt Stafford made his return, did a little returning to Motor City. Took on the Lions in Sunday Night Football in a game that, if you listen to the podcast, me and Johnny were absolutely sure that it was going to go over. That's not the way it went. It did not go over. It actually went under by 7 points. There was multiple drives in the red zone that turned into either 3 points or 0 points because both coaches are pretty aggressive, like to go for it on fourth down, that kind of thing, which is the way they go. And I mean, I'm not begrudging them either way. It did suck for the points, though. That was brutal. Absolutely brutal. Jared Goff, really neither Jared Goff or Matt Stafford played great. I thought a lot of missed throws, a lot of interceptions that should have been interceptions, didn't get to be interceptions. Neither team really blew me away. The biggest thing that happened in the game was Jameson Williams. He looked like the best player on the field, went for a lot of yards. And then, you look on the other side, and you got Matt Stafford just kind of, took a step back from last year from what I saw. Puka Nacua got hurt. That was a big-time injury. Cooper Kupp actually looked great, though. So I guess it was a mixed bag if you're a Rams fan. You don't feel too bad about the loss. There was a lot of emotions going into that. Absolutely. I mean, you got a guy returning to a city that he played in for 15 years. There's going to be a lot of emotions there. It was a fun game. It went to OT, so you can't really cross either team off. It could have went either way. I still think the Lions are the class in the NFC North, but they didn't impress me. I'm on pump the brake watch for the Detroit Lions as of right now. You know who I'm not pumping the brakes for are the Kansas City Chiefs, because they rolled all over the Ravens. And I know it was a closer game than the score looked closer than how the game actually played out. If you looked at the score, you would say it was a pretty close game. But if you watched it, there was never really a time until quite literally the last 5 seconds that you thought Baltimore was going to make a problem for the Chiefs in this game. Now, granted, we're an Isaiah Likely toe away from maybe having a different conversation here. And I totally can understand that. But he was out of bounds, and that's not what happened. And if we played the what if game with the Kansas City Chiefs, we could what if ourselves into a literal oblivion. I mean, they've had so many breaks, or what appears to be breaks, go their way over the last 3 or 4 years. You know, you would think eventually the luck would start to maybe work its way back the other way. Hasn't happened exactly quite yet. The Chiefs train appears to be just rolling. Pat Mahomes has some new weapons out there. We're definitely going to get into those. I mean, Xavier Worthy looked awesome. Uh, Rashee Rice didn't skip a beat. I mean, the dude is the new slant king of the NFL. I saw a graphic. Every single route that Rashee Rice ran, I think he had 12 routes. Of the 12 routes he ran, he had way more than that, but of the 12 receptions in the 9 catches or whatever, every single one of them was a slant route. And it's just like that's what he does. He's gonna be, that slot receiver guy, and he's gonna kill you in the middle of the field. And if you don't have an answer for that, that's gonna be a major, major problem. Isaiah Pacheco looked good. I mean, Chiefs Kingdom, just the class of the NFL, and even the Ravens. I mean, I think both of those teams actually were the best two teams I saw this week. I, I'm gonna, I'm probably gonna get shit for that actually, but the Ravens looked good, man. The Ravens looked really, really good. I was impressed with the Ravens. Lamar looked great. All right. So I have Mark Andrews on my fantasy team. And I'm sure a lot of you have Mark Andrews on your fantasy team. And you're watching that Ravens game and you're thinking, it's over. I mean, it's cooked. It's done. Mark Andrews is done. My tight ends are done. Who's on the waiver wire? Oh, geez. The waiver wire is terrible. Well, of course it's terrible. And you're absolutely not going to get Isaiah Likely first waiver because you're sitting waiver 8 because you decided to take Dontavian Wicks because he was going to be the guy. He was going to score a touchdown. He didn't do anything. So, Mark Andrews fans, Mark Andrews owners, shout out you. It's going to be an absolutely brutal, tough season ahead. But I'm starting a support group. I'll drop the number down here at the bottom of the screen. We'll get together once a week and we'll cry. That's the best we can do. A guy who did cry, Gerard Mayo. How about that? Gets his first win as a Patriots head coach at Cincinnati. They were 10-point underdogs. Absolutely nobody thought they were going to win this game. In fact, I gotta pull it up here. So I had a buddy text me about a survivor pool he was in during that game. So he sends me, I'm in a survivor league with 15 people. 14 of the people picked the Bengals to win week 1. I picked the Seahawks, and if the Bengals lose, I'll win $150 after week 1. So I checked back in with him. I said, "Did you win your survivor pool?" He said, "Absolutely. They paid me out, and they they paid me out, and they offered a $50 buy-in for everybody else. I got a free buy-in, and now the pot's $700." So he got his money back. He won the first survivor pool. They reloaded, and now he's back in it. I mean, you love to see it. You hate to see it if you're a Bengals fan, but anytime you can cash a survivor pool week 1 because you decide to zig when everybody zags, kudos to you. Shout out to you, Mr. Mike. That was a big winner, a huge winner. Mike, winner of the week. Congratulations. On the other side of that coin, there are some major losers. And there was no bigger losers of the week than fans of the New York Football Giants and the Carolina Panthers. Holy shitballs, did those teams look absolutely terrible. Daniel Jones, 22 for 42, 186 yards, 2 interceptions, and a 28-6 loss to the Minnesota Vikings and Mr. Sam the Gingerbread Man Darnold. What more is there to say about Daniel Jones Other than that, he is the biggest fleecer, the biggest money bandit. Billy the Kid never had shit on this man. He has stolen more money from the New York Giants than any other person in history. Wow, well done, Daniel Jones. You look terrible every week, and yet they keep rolling you out there. I mean, if the preseason wasn't a primer for this performance, I don't know what was. Daniel Jones, kudos to you, Mr. Bag Chaser. But man, I am tired of watching you play football, and I know the New York Giants are as well. Bryce Young, not much better. 13 for 30, 2 interceptions, and a 47-10 drumming by the New Orleans Saints. I know Bryce Young doesn't have a lot of weapons. Xavier Legette, the rookie, a 65-year-old Adam Thielen, a Terrence Marshall Jr. that I can't even remember a time when I've seen him catch a ball since LSU, if he's still even on the team. I watched the game and I wasn't even sure. I know he's got nothing to work with. But you watch the kid play and it's like he struggles, man. He struggles to make throws when he's outside the pocket. He's struggling to read the defense, mostly because he can't see over the fucking line. And, it's not just a height issue. Kyler Murray's the same height, and Kyler Murray's a very good player. So you can't just blame the height. I'm just not sure if the kid can play. And the Panthers, man, they've got to be sick and tired of being the worst team in football. Because every single year, it is the same shit, new year, hapless, poor coaching. I mean, it doesn't matter what coach you put in there. They're going to be terrible. Losers of the week, Panthers fans and Giants fans. Thoughts and prayers are with you guys. I want to say you had a worse week than the Packers. You know what? You had a worse week than the Packers because at least we know Jordan Love's going to come back and be good. You guys are just fucked. Shout out you. Shout out you guys. Got to move on to some of the good performers of the week. These are people that I highlighted as the guys. This is more from a fantasy perspective. I'm going to be talking about how they performed in terms of fantasy and all that kind of good stuff. But real football, fantasy football, it doesn't matter. These boys were absolutely bowling. First off, kind of a surprise. I don't think anybody had him as the week 1 QB1 in fantasy football, Mr. Baker Mayfield. Shout out Baker. The whole crowd just went crazy. They were all excited for Baker. 24 for 30, 80%, 289 yards, 4 TDs, 146.4 QBR, and a whopping 29.66 fantasy points. Shit, boy. I mean, that's doing the damn thing. He also got a W. Tampa Bay Bucks fans, stand up. I know you are feeling good about getting your guy. Joe Mixon. We might have thought he was washed. Well, not the people that drafted him second or third round in fantasy. You are feeling absolutely phenomenal right now. 159 yards, 5.3 yards per carry, a touchdown, on his way to 26.8 fantasy points. He was the number 2 fantasy running back in the NFL. The dude absolutely balled. If you watch the game, he was the perfect yin to CJ Stroud's yang. Every single time they were in a position where they needed to get 3 or 4 or 5 yards, Joe Mixon was that guy for them. If he is that type of player the rest of this season, the Texans are going to be a huge problem. This one was tough for me to watch, but I hate to say it wasn't expected. Saquon Barkley absolutely balled out. Shout out to the biggest losers, New York Giants, Saquon Barkley. 109 yards, 2 TDs, 2 receptions, 20 yards, another TD, 33.2 fantasy points. Saquon Barkley, have yourself a day. Dude absolutely balled the fuck out all game. He ripped big run after big run. He was effective in the passing game, as I mentioned. Only two receptions, but both receptions were big-time plays. Jalen Hurts dropped him off on a perfect ball on the sideline, like towards the pylon for a touchdown. That was poetry in motion. That was really – I hated to see it, but I love to see it because I love watching good football. It's one of those things, man. Okay, tangent. You're a football fan, and one of the things you hate doing is watching your team lose on Sunday. But if you're watching your team lose on Sunday and the other team is playing some really, really good football. They're dominating the line of scrimmage. They're getting hat on hat. Their defenses are tackling. They're physical at the line of scrimmage. You got a running back making big time plays, all that kind of stuff. It's hard not to appreciate that from a football playing perspective. And just as a football guy, Saquon Barkley he's a treat to watch. He's an absolute stud. Another guy in that game that balled out, my boy Jaden Reed, he put CJ Gardner on the skates. That's going to be in his highlight tape forever and CJ Gardner's low light tape forever. A lot of that had to do with the field, but come on now. My boy went 4 receptions, 138 yards, a 70-yard long, a TD, and 33.1 fantasy points. Jaden Reed, I know you weren't in a lot of starting lineups this week in terms of fantasy football, but I can personally promise you, my boy, you will be in every starting lineup going forward. Jameson Williams also did the damn thing. 5 receptions, 121 yards, 1 TD, 24.4 fantasy points. Jameson Williams had himself a day. He's been a breakout candidate for what feels like 2.5 years now. I mean, he had the injuries, had the gambling thing, and he's just been a guy that I feel like every single one of us has been waiting. We've been just waiting to see him explode, and that felt like the coming out party for the kid. That was a big time deal for that guy, and I don't know if we're locking him into fantasy lineups for sure going forward. I mean, you still got Amon St. Brown in that offense. You still got Sammy Laporta in that offense. So still got Jahmyr Gibbs, and Jahmyr Gibbs, man, he gets a lot of touches on that in that receiving game. So I'm not sure he's the guaranteed starter just yet, but that's a big time performance, and we're watching him. The last thing I'm gonna do at the end of these wrap ups is I've got a top 5 list of rookies who I'm watching weekly. It's going to be mostly centered, like I said, around the offensive players. Mostly because you don't find out who the good defensive guys are until 5, 6, 7, 10 games into the season after they've had multiple reps. I mean, a lot of the top defensive prospects are still rotating their way into the lineups because it's a lot harder to play defense in the NFL than offense. I don't know if you knew that, but that's just how it is. Anyway, so we're going to keep it mostly focused towards the rookies. Now, these are the rookies I watched with my eyeballs that I thought were the best. Now, this isn't like a definite thing where it's all based on stats. A lot of it's eye test, a lot of it's feel, so that's just the way it's going to go. You can get mad about these rankings. You can say they're shit. It is what it is, man. Number 1, the most impressive rookie I saw this weekend, and he only needed 2 catches to do it, was Mr. Xavier Worthy, 47 yards and a touchdown. He looked like the fastest player on the field. Every single time he touched the ball, it was absolutely electric. I mean, it just feels like the ground floor. Like it is like you're staring at the opening concepts of a Ferrari. And it's like, hey, this is what the Ferrari is going to look like. And they're like, man, that thing looks fast and that thing looks sleek and it looks like he can put it up and get it down. And they're like, yep. Well, we haven't really seen him play a lot yet. Well, this Ferrari can play and it's going to play quickly. I got Xavier Worthy as my number 1. Number 2, I've got Jaden Daniels. He did not get the win, but he did put up some absolutely impressive stats for a rookie, especially on the run game. 17 for 24, passing 184 yards, no TDs. He did have a drop in the end zone by one of his guys, but he had 16 carries, 88 yards, and 2 touchdowns on the ground. He was a force in the goal line. It seems like a guy that is going to dominate from that perspective. He had 27.6, 29, depending on which league you're playing. But he was the number 3 QB in fantasy, an absolute stud to watch. Jane Daniels is my number 2. Brian Thomas Jr., number 3, 4 receptions, 47 yards, and a TD. If none of you guys saw it, Trevor Lawrence ripped one of the prettiest passes, anticipation throws you'll ever see. Brian Thomas Jr. is running like a little option wheel route It's almost more like a drag. It's probably more like an option drag across the goalpost. And Trevor Lawrence just hit him right before his feet touched out of the sideline. Brian Thomas Jr. ran a great route. Looks like an absolute stud. Malik Neighbors, number 4, really did not have a great game in terms of stats. 5 receptions, 66 yards. He did average 13.2 yards per catch, but he had Daniel freaking Jones throwing to him. And anytime you got Daniel Jones throwing to you and you still end up on the stat sheet, I'm going to go ahead and tip my cap at you for sure. Finally, we have Brock Bowers, 6 receptions, 58 yards. He's going to be a guy. I don't know if he's a tight end. It doesn't really look like he's a tight end out there. He's quick. He's fast. He doesn't really block that much. He was running a lot of routes. He ran the 3rd most routes for the Raiders, right behind Jacoby Myers and Devontae Adams. So that rocks. I mean, if you're looking for production out of a rookie tight end, I think he had 12 points, maybe something similar to that. So you'll take that. You'll absolutely take that production out of a guy. 2 honorable mentions. Adonai Mitchell. He had like 3 sheesh plays wide open, nobody within 10 yards of him, walk in, 2 easy touchdowns, and Richardson just absolutely missed him twice. Hopefully, that's just some rookie stuff and some communication stuff, and they'll figure that out, and it'll all be good, and everything's going to be gravy. But that concerned me. I didn't love that. And Caleb Williams, he's going to find his way onto this list. I know he's not on this list right now, but when you stink it up like you stunk it up, I'm not going to put you on my top 5 list. I mean, the same with like Bo Nix. I mean, people want to put Bo Nix on top 5 lists, but it's like Bo Nix stunk it up. I mean, every time Bo Nix was having to throw the ball down the field against, cover 3, cover 2, whatever it is, if they got a deep man back there, it wasn't great. And that was Bo Nix in college. If he's not able to create with his feet, Bo Nix ain't getting it done. So no, Bo Nix isn't on my list. Caleb Williams isn't on my list. Sorry. It is what it is. I'm sorry. That's how it's going to go. So just to wrap it up, going to do this once a week. Going to definitely highlight my rookies. Going to go through the fantasy winners of the week, and then just highlight some of the plays and some of the games that I really thought tickled my whiskers. Other than that, ladies and gentlemen, you can find me on all socials. RoseyReact. I post gambling plays. We actually have a gambling collective. We have a Discord. You're more than welcome to join. Be a lot of fun. We chop it up, talk football, talk leans. Oh my goodness, talk so much that you stutter. So that's all for me, folks. As Daffy Duck would say, that's all, folks.